friends. Welcome to the Pain-Free Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Welton, a certified doula, childbirth educator, and mother of three. In this space, we'll hear positive, supernatural, and yes, even pain-free birth stories from women just like you. We'll explore the deeply spiritual side of childbirth and how God designed women's bodies brilliantly for birth. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, ladies. Today, I have such a special birth story for you. Emily Gardner is here with us today to share her pain-free hospital birth experience. Welcome, Emily.
Hi.
You guys have not heard this story, and we have not shared it on my Instagram yet. Emily Gardner DM'd me a little while ago saying, "Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Your course gave me the ability to have a completely unmedicated, pain-free, empowering, and deeply spiritual first birth, and it was in a hospital." So listen up, mamas. If you are planning a hospital birth, this is the episode to tune into, because we are going to go all over how Emily prepared and what happened in her pain-free hospital birth. I am so excited to have you on.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us about your preparation and how you found me, how you chose to go for a hospital birth, and what happened?
Yeah, so I did not want kids because I was terrified of the pain. I mean, that's all you hear about is how terrifying and how painful birth is. Got married and we wanted kids, and I'm on Instagram and I see your ad of pain-free birth, and I said, no way. Not a chance. So I'm looking and I'm reading all the testimonies and I'm like, holy guacamole, you can have a pain-free birth. So found out we were pregnant last August, and that was the first thing I went to. I was like, I'm having a pain-free birth. I don't care what I have to do. I'm doing it. So I literally watched testimonies all on your page, and I was like, I need to take this course. This is hands down the number one thing I have to do. So we signed up for the course, and I made my husband sign up for the partner course because I'm like, if I'm doing this, you're helping me. Nice. And then throughout the course, I stayed super active. I actually did a CrossFit class all the way through my second trimester, which that helped a lot. So that was the two biggest things I did was the course, and I stayed active, and being a chiropractor, I'm on my feet all day. So those just all kind of prepped physically my body, and then your course helped me mentally.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So you're already, I would imagine, pretty in tune with your body to a degree as a chiropractor, and knowing just when things are out of alignment or when something needs attention. Did that help you in your pregnancy as well?
Yeah, that was huge, especially just knowing what pregnancy does to your body and all the changes, joints, ligaments, and all that fun stuff that we get to go through. Yeah. And having my husband being a chiropractor, I was religiously adjusted throughout my pregnancy to make sure that my body was ready for this, and baby was in a good position, and my hips were moving and grooving, just so I could, grow my little tiny human.
Totally. Oh, I love that. And what was it that you learned in the course work or the preparation that prepared you and helped you be ready to have a pain-free birth?
I think the biggest thing was knowing exactly what to expect physiologically, knowing that, this is how your body is designed. God designed you this way. You are meant to birth this beautiful little baby, and your body's already prepped for it. You just have to get in tune with it and understand, don't be afraid. And that was my biggest thing. I was like, I can't be afraid. I'm not going to listen to all of, my patients that come in that give me such terrifying stories, or all of the stories you hear from other people. I only allowed positive things to enter my mind and to listen to while I was pregnant. And then diving really deep into my spirituality, really leaning on God and understanding that He is here with us. He has me and I am safe. So those were the biggest things. And especially going through the course and reading all of the inserts from the Bible and the verses, and understanding that God did this for a reason and my body is made for this, really put me at ease about everything. Yeah. So it was really cool to learn all that.
Oh yeah. I love that. And I do teach the course and the material from a faith-based perspective, but I've had women of all faiths go through it. But I think you hit the nail on the head because like when we realize that this is all part of the design and it's not intended to be horrible and painful and it's actually designed, everything works together. And the physiology is there for a reason. Everything happens for a purpose. And when we understand it and partner with our bodies, all the fear goes away because we see the incredible design that is physiological birth. You just described it so beautifully. What was your mantra in labor that helped you the most?
Especially going through like after it started getting intense. I know I just repeated like, I am loved, I'm supported, I'm safe. Thank you, God. Something like that. Oh my goodness. I can't even remember.
Yeah, you said I'm
But
safe, I'm loved, I'm supported. Thank you, God.
yeah, that I just,
You got it
I
right.
remember just repeating it and repeating it. And I think that allowed me to like fully relax and using the O method to, you know, what your mouth does, your cervix does, and to
Yeah.
allow everything to open. I like, that's when things started to speed up. And it was the coolest thing to like understand doing the O and allowing your mind to just get out of the way of my body was so cool. It was such a great experience. It was the coolest.
Now, how many times do you hear first time moms say it was such a cool experience? It was the greatest about their labor. Like, I just like that alone is so revolutionary.
I know I get really weird looks when people ask how was birth? I was like, honestly, it was a really great experience. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it was like, it's so empowering. And they think I'm crazy.
So tell us about it. Like you were at home and laboring. Were you wondering like, is this real labor? Or you think like, how did you decide when to go to the hospital? What did it feel like?
So I was supposed to be working up until the 18th in the office. I was supposed to be there until Thursday. Wednesday night, I was like, I need to paint my fireplace. Stupidly.
I love how we take on the most ridiculous projects like right before labor begins.
Why not?
I want to hear
And
like in the comments, like how many women have taken on ridiculous like home improvement projects right before labor.
Many.
I'm so curious.
But yeah, I was painting my fireplace and I realized like my feet were swollen, which I did not have any complications, swelling or anything throughout my whole pregnancy. I was like, all right, I'll take it easy. And my dog would not leave my side.
Wow,
And I remember jokingly,
know.
it was so cool. I remember jokingly sending a picture to my sister, like, I think I'm going to be in labor soon, which was 5 days early in hindsight. And the next morning at like 4:53, my water broke. And I didn't feel any contractions. I didn't have contractions or cramping or anything up until that point. So at first I was like, is this really happening? I was like unsure, but my water broke. So I was like, all right, I guess it's game time. And I remember not rushing. I was like, this is going to be a while. We're going to take our time. I remember I showered, we packed our bags, and we headed to the hospital like an hour and a half later. Booked in, got there and everything. And it was pretty straightforward getting to the hospital. There was nothing crazy. But yeah, I didn't really feel contractions. It was just my water broke. So it was.
So did you go to the hospital before contractions started?
Yeah. So I went to the hospital like an hour and a half after my water broke. And I started feeling almost Braxton Hicks contractions, nothing crazy. It was just more cramping on my way to the hospital. And that was about all I felt for a little bit.
They just kind of felt like regular cramps, like nothing intense or painful.
Yeah. And the deep breathing, the first breathing that you taught in the course really helped with those. And but again, they weren't anything crazy. They were just cramping. They ramped up a little bit after an hour at the hospital. I expected the day to be very long because, first time birth, 20 plus hours, 40 hours. I was fully expecting to be there for quite a while. But later, probably noonish, things started to really ramp up.
And they didn't give you any Pitocin or anything like that. This is just all natural.
Yeah, all natural. That was another thing your course taught me was to stand my ground. And my husband was great too. I was very lucky. My OB wasn't there, so I requested a midwife,
Oh,
and the
nice.
midwife was amazing. So she really backed me up with a lot of the stuff that I wanted. We did compromise on a few things because I didn't want to be attached to an IV. I didn't want the Pitocin. I literally wanted completely hands off, honestly. I just was in the hospital to be in the hospital, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all I had was they put an IV line in me, and that was it. They didn't even hook me up to anything. It was just in case of emergency, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was, and honestly, the IV was probably the most painful of the whole experience.
That says a lot. Wow. I love that. That's like a quote for the books.
So after that, it was kind of funny. My mother-in-law actually came into the room. Love my mother-in-law, but I really just pictured me and my husband being in the labor room and really just focusing and getting in tune with each other. And it was funny because I remember like with my mother-in-law there, things slowed down. The contractions were a little bit more intense. And I like looked at my husband and he kind of figured it out and he
Mm.
had her go get us lunch or something. And as soon as she left, my body was like, okay, we're back in our safe area. We're back into, the rhythm. And then I did ask for a cervical check just because I was really curious to see how far and how well we were doing. And it was soon after I was 6 centimeters and I was like, really could feel the contractions ramping up and like it was coming. It was awesome.
Wow. I love so many things about this. I love that you and your husband both recognized, something's off.
Mhm.
Contractions are slowing down, and you didn't have to say anything. Your husband already knew because he understood the physiology and how environment and people and interruptions can change a labor pattern. And this is something that so many people don't understand. And the fact that you both recognize that and that he shifted gears and got her out of the room for you, I
Yeah, he
I
was
think
really
that's
great.
so
And I
great.
felt so bad, but like I was like, all right,
Never
no,
feel
I'm
bad
having a
about
baby.
kicking people out of your birth room. Never feel bad. Nobody needs to be there other than you and your partner and whoever you want to be there, honestly. We have to make that clear. I think so many women empathize with that, and I do too, because we want to please people. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to say something that's
Mhm.
gonna rock the boat or cause a conflict in the relationship. But at the end of the day, whether they even understand it or not, like this is your birth and you're going to remember it. And it's not worth disrupting your labor pattern or introducing fear into the environment or your heart just to make someone else feel comfortable. Because this is your
Mhm.
day. Everything is centered around mom's comfort, and it should never, other people's comfort should never be the focus. So I love
Yeah,
that
no.
you guys both, that he supported you in that and knew right away what to do. It's so important. And I love that he had the insight to know what to do.
Yeah, he was awesome. And the whole time, every contraction, he had either hip compression, counter pressure. He was awesome. Really great. Yeah, I have no words because he was such a huge support system throughout my whole pregnancy and throughout the whole labor. He was great. I love him.
Oh, I love hearing that. What did he get out of the course and the birth partner boot camp?
I think really just understanding, reading my cues, I guess, and
Mm,
understanding like she needs me to be her support system and to be there to stand, almost like to stand her ground when she can't stand it herself.
yeah.
So, yeah, he stood up for me. And even like through labor, we were able to have like conversations about like what we still wanted and stuff, just to like, keep track of where we're at and understanding like what we wanted to go forward with. But yeah, we were on the same page the whole time and it was so refreshing. It was so great.
Oh, I love hearing that. What happened after they checked you and you were 6 centimeters? What did you think? Were you surprised?
I believe I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm actually doing it." Like I was I was so proud of myself because I lowered my hopes a little bit. I was like, "All right, we're probably going to be at 3 or 4 centimeters. We're still super early." And she said 6. And I was just like ecstatic. I was so proud of myself for like getting there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in active labor. This is, like, I think I said it so many times. This is awesome.
Like in the middle of your labor, you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah. And the nurses were like, they ask you, so what's your pain at? And I was like, honestly, like a 5, like, is that count? They were funny. They were awesome though.
What did contractions feel like for you at this stage?
So in hindsight, I believe I was having back labor because all of my pressure was in my back. Like it didn't
Mm.
wrap around to the front. It was just like my back cramped pretty tight. It wasn't like pain. It was intense. Don't get me wrong. Like it was intense, but it wasn't a painful intensity. It was just my body is like contracting and I could just feel it.
Yeah.
But those breathing, like to breathe in and like push down and, say that, oh, was the most calming thing.
Hmm.
Everything just kind of flowed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Labor flows when we're in a
Mhm.
relaxed state, not fighting it and being concerned and worried about what's coming next or how long is this contraction going to take or how long will I be in labor and all those like doubts that enter our mind. But when we're just focused in that moment of like on this contraction and what my body's doing right now, and we can
Mhm.
partner with it instead of like running away from it, it changes
Mhm.
everything. So you got it. Like you're doing it. You realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. This is amazing. What happened next?
So I remember I was on my feet most of the time. Sitting down was a no-go. I just was not comfortable, not moving. And so I was either on my feet on a bouncy ball or had my knee up, kind of like to shift my hips, I guess. And they just continued to ramp up and ramp up. And I remember it was probably 6 o'clock at night when I felt that urge to push. And I looked at my husband and I said, go get the midwife. Because she was just in and out all day, which was perfect. It was just me and my husband just, going through labor.
Yeah,
And
they don't stick
I,
around and wait for you to deliver the baby. Like they're in a hospital setting, they're not there. They're juggling 10 other patients or something.
I guess it was a busy day on the
Yeah.
labor and delivery floor.
Which
So
can
I was
be a
like,
blessing if you just want to labor in peace. But some moms don't
yeah,
realize that and they think, oh, they'll have an attendant there or a midwife or their nurse there the whole time. And that's just not the case. That's why I love doulas because
yeah.
they stay. But in your case, it sounds like it was good. You and your husband got to get in that zone.
Yeah, and it was great because I believe at that point I was trying to save up the intensity to get into the shower to get, that
Yeah.
water, the relief from the water.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was awesome. Just standing in the shower and having the warmth roll down my back was great. And then
Yes.
I was probably in there for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I, got out. And I believe that's actually when I felt the urge to start pushing was after the shower.
Yep, totally makes sense. When
Um,
you have a position change and you're upright, that baby drops.
yeah. And so the midwife came in and she's like, "Yep, this sounds like transition because my internal O's started I started to say them out loud. And
Mm.
it just felt good to verbally say the O and it felt like things would move easier when I was
So were you
saying things
not
out loud, which was really
vocalizing them
cool.
before that?
No, I wasn't. My mouth would be an O, but I would almost like hum it in my chest.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, I
to
love
allow my
that.
body to kind of do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then once things got a little more intense, I did start to verbalize, which there was
Yeah.
definitely a difference. So that was really cool.
Your midwife recognized this sounds like baby's coming and you were vocalizing at that point. Did she check you?
Yep. She did not check me yet. She had me actually move a little bit. One knee, I believe, was on the floor and I was like holding on to the bed. It just was, I was in that position for a little bit and it felt good.
So
And then she
you
had
were
me move.
kneeling on the bed like a runner's pose with one knee up.
Yeah, but I was like on the floor and one knee, my foot was on the floor and one knee was on the floor. And then my arms were on the bed, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So you're kneeling like next to the bed with a knee up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And she was like, let's maybe do this pose, but on the bed. She was
Okay.
really great. So she, moved the bed up and everything to give her a little bit of ease if baby was coming that fast. So got on the bed and I was still feeling the urge to push and nothing was really happening. So she was like, "Can I check you? You're not advancing." She wasn't saying like as fast as she wanted, but she wanted to make sure my cervix was completely out of the way. And so she checked me, and I actually, some cervix was still in the way. And so she was able to kind of help it move the last little bit. And then pushing it was funny pushing. I was like, oh, wow, this actually got much easier once it was all the way out of the way. And then I just got really deep into this zone. It was like an out of body experience. I went into like this very deep spiritual, like God has me now. And I guess I pushed for 3 hours. I didn't know that. I just, went with it. And like I said, it was such an empowering, cool experience to like go through that final part.
So were you in that position pushing for 3 hours?
I would guess maybe an hour I was in that position. And then my midwife was awesome. She was smart enough and she was like, let's put you in a different position. You're not getting like effective pushes. So she had me actually go side lying. And that's when like you could start to see the baby's head and the pushes were getting much more effective. I did deep down, I was like, please give me the fetal ejection. But I don't think I had that on my first time, but I'm hoping maybe baby number 2, I can experience that because just all the stories that you post about, it's so cool.
Yeah. It's so funny because I think basically what happens is you're experiencing that urge to push. Like, it's not like you don't feel it, but what happens is your body is just laboring that baby down on its own. And I think sometimes it's like you feel this intensity and this pressure and holding that and being like present in that can be so hard to sometimes not want to push on top of it. And sometimes it can help to push on top of it. It sounds like you were feeling that intensity and pressure. So you started kind of pushing with your body. I love the fact that it sounds like she wasn't coaching you or like telling you what to do. Like you were just kind of intuitive in the pushing. And you tell me, but like, did contractions space out during these 2 or 3 hours that you were pushing for?
I want to say it wasn't like I was bombarded with contractions.
Yeah.
They came and went and I just kind of rode them. And I'm super lucky. My sister's a pelvic floor therapist. And before I gave birth, she was like, listen, this is what you need to do. When we push, she was like, you need to not hold your breath and push.
Yeah.
Like I believe you've did multiple instructions on that in your course.
Yep. I
Where
totally
you
agree
would
with the
show how
pelvic floor therapists on this.
Yeah, so I just remember like letting out my breath as I pushed, as opposed to like taking that breath in and pushing. And I remember my midwife, she would be like, that's a really, really great one. Like, never once did she say, okay, and push now and push now. She just let my body do its thing, which was a blessing. It was awesome.
That. I love that. And I think it makes such for a completely different experience when we're following our body's intuition. So like, I think some women might hear like, oh my gosh, you were pushing for 3 hours and get intimidated by that. But if it's calm and it's peaceful and you're not overly exerting yourself, holding your breath and force pushing baby out, that changes like the experience because you can intuitively like feel what your body's doing. And maybe you're contracting every 10 minutes or so. Maybe it's 8 or even more, 20 minutes. It's not like they're rolling back to back generally in a labor where you're pushing for a longer extended period of time. And sometimes your body will just do it, whether you're even pushing or not, that baby will come down. Sometimes you can add to it. And it can be a peaceful experience where you're working with your body and it doesn't have to be exhausting and excruciating and stressful the way we see often portrayed.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And it definitely wasn't that painful screaming birth by any means. I want to say my husband said that I didn't make a noise for contractions besides just breathing. And we were in our own little bubble. We were forehead to forehead and just, like I said, doing our thing. And I remember the midwife, I was like, finally, she was like, do you want to feel your baby's head? And I was like, Okay, yeah, that would be really cool. So I felt his little tuft of hair and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is happening. He is almost here." And I want to say it was like 3 pushes and he was on my chest. It was so
Wow.
cool.
What did you feel immediately after he was born?
Just this rush of like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm a mom and I just did this." I
Yes.
Yeah, he hit my chest. The first thing was, "I'm a mom." And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just had a pain-free, amazing birth experience. I did what I wanted to do." And it was just, I'll say it again, it was awesome. Like it was so empowering and I'm ready to do it again, really.
At 8 weeks postpartum, ladies. That is awesome. I will repeat it. That is awesome. How did God show up for you, or how did you feel his presence in this birth experience?
Yeah, I think I felt so safe. I felt so supported. And I knew that like it was because of God and just how he made my body. And I knew that I could trust him. And I mean, he's God, he knows what he's doing. He made us for a reason and he made our bodies be able to do this amazing thing. And like being a chiropractor, I am just in awe of the human body and everything that it does because I get to see it every day. And the things that God designed our bodies to do is just, it's so cool.
Mm.
And just knowing that and being able to lean into that through birth was so calming, I want to say, putting me in such a good space that I like just knew that my body can do this because God is here.
I love
Yeah,
that. It's like, and it's so true because in your profession as a chiropractor, you have this innate belief, I feel like, from all the chiropractors I've worked with, who they just believe like the body heals itself. It's it's divinely designed to. When we remove the blockage, when we're in alignment, like the body is brilliant and wise and it heals itself. And so why not in labor? Why not? Wouldn't the body also know how to birth our babies? Wouldn't the body also know
right.
how to open and dilate and what hormones to release and for it to be a positive experience?
Right. Oh gosh, yeah. God is just, he's so important in our lives that, to do birth without him is pointless. So he was a big factor in, going through this and everything.
You mentioned like you went to another place in labor during transition or pushing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It was almost like I was in the very far back of my mind. I was like, I need to get out of my own way. And I think you said it so many times throughout the course, like, get out of the way. And I feel like that's what I did. I got out of the way to allow these contractions to work, to allow baby to work his way down, and to just get out of that fear cycle and to not be afraid. I knew that I just had to let go because I'm someone that I have to plan everything to a T. I need to know what's going on. And if I were to be that person in my birth, I would have hit that fear cycle and I would have had a painful birth because I would have been afraid of what's going to happen next. But I got out of my way and it almost felt like I was like in the corner of the back of my mind of the room, just letting it happen. And I think that was the biggest thing that allowed me to have that pain-free birth was just to get out of my own way.
I love that. Like your description of being in the corner of your own mind, like in the background, like almost like you're observing it, allowing it to happen, but not controlling it. And I think
Mhm.
that that is probably so encouraging for so many moms to hear, especially moms that are type A, plan ahead, everything, is like perfect and ready to go, they too can have a pain-free birth experience, that you don't have to get stuck in that mode. And the planning is great, but the planning happens before labor, right? So that in labor,
Yeah.
you have that confidence to let go and surrender.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're 8 weeks postpartum now. How are you feeling? How has postpartum been? And what have you processed since that to what you're feeling now?
Yeah. So postpartum, I did tear and I had to have some stitches because baby boy came out with an arm next to his head.
Oh, wow.
So
So he had,
yeah,
oh my gosh, a compound presentation with an arm next to his head.
yes. And the midwife also said, was he posterior? And he came out, arm right next to his face. And
Wow. I didn't know that. That's hard.
yeah, I forgot that part. And I think that's why I pushed for so long.
Yep, that
And
makes
that's why in
sense.
hindsight, I think I was having the back labor.
Yep, I was just
Um,
gonna say that would
yeah.
explain the back labor too. The fact that you still had a pain-free birth experience that was that amazing with a posterior baby and a compound arm presentation, like that those are curveballs that will definitely impact labor. And I'm just even more impressed at how your birth went with those two
And
factors.
I think it helped because my midwife did not tell me this until like she
Yep.
came and checked on me postpartum. And I think because I do like to, plan and everything, if I would have known those things, I think it would have been a totally different birth too, just knowing like, oh shoot, he's not in the perfect position. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Or he's gonna,
besides
what if
the
he's stuck or I can't do it now? Yeah. That can definitely
exactly,
introduce fear.
exactly,
Like these are things you can't necessarily prepare for, right? Like you can do certain
exactly.
techniques in spinning babies to help baby rotate, but sometimes baby just comes the way they come and we have to go with the flow and surrender, which you did.
Yep, yep, yeah. So he came Earthside and he was happy and everything. He was perfect. So postpartum that was the part that I was the most afraid of was the postpartum
Wow.
healing and having to, care for this little human now while also trying to heal myself. And again, my husband was like my biggest support and he helped with everything, which was amazing. And it was a little rough, but I got through it. You know what I mean? I cared for myself because I know if I didn't care for myself, I couldn't care for my little one. And it was probably the first 2 weeks that was the hardest, just that whole mind change or the shift of, life.
Hmm.
And,
It's a big
but after those,
transition. That first time, that first
yeah,
baby is a massive transition.
yeah, and breastfeeding was a little bit hard in the beginning, but we figured it out and we're doing great now. 8 weeks postpartum. I'm super happy. I love being a mom. It's great.
Oh, that's beautiful. It is hard. That the first 2 months, especially, I will tell you, I feel like are the hardest. So you're like right on the edge of that cusp of like it getting easier. At least in my experience, I know every mom is different, but I know those first 2 months of like up all night nursing and figuring out if there's, latch issues or breastfeeding issues and your hormones are
Mhm.
rebalancing and you're waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night to breastfeed. Like those compounding factors can definitely make postpartum difficult. And especially as first time moms, where this is the first time we're walking through this and everything is shifting. So, I mean, good for you for taking care of yourself in that season. And it's just beautiful. What would you say to any other first time moms preparing for birth?
Probably to get out of your own way. Just ride the contractions and sounds weird, enjoy your birth. It's your first baby and you just need to like enjoy it and understand what your body is designed to do and let it do it. And definitely find your support system, whether it's, your husband, family, a doula, find someone to lean on and lean on them. Don't feel bad for leaning on them.
Hmm. Oh, that's so good. For anyone considering pain-free birth course, what would you tell them and would you recommend it?
Oh my goodness, yes. Take the course, know what your body is going to do and what it's going to go through, and understand how to get that oxytocin flowing. Because once you get it going, like you're good. And to
Yep.
understand that fear cycle, to stay away from the fear cycle is, hands down the best thing that happened during my birth was to understand it and stay away from it and understand how to get the oxytocin and keep it flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the key. Oh, thank you so much Emily, for sharing your story on this podcast and with moms. How can they reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Emily underscore the Chiro doc. Feel free to DM me. I love my birth so much. I would be more than happy to answer questions or anything about it, especially being in the hospital, because I
Yeah.
know a lot of people are afraid of, having that hospital birth. And I had a great experience in the hospital.
We love to hear that over here at Pain Free Birth. I absolutely love it because this is possible when you can control your internal environment and know what's happening and be in that confident, safe space. It's less relevant what's happening around you. And so I just absolutely love even the positive hospital birth stories and that it doesn't have to be home birth only that can have these beautiful pain-free birth experiences. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for championing just trusting your body and getting out of the way and trusting on God and for sharing your amazing story with us in the community.
Oh, well, thanks for having me and thank you for your course. Thanks
Oh,
for literally all you do for us pregnant moms. You're awesome.
oh, thank you. Well, with that, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pain Free Birth Podcast. If you were encouraged, it would mean so much if you left us a 5-star review and shared this with your community. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram at Pain Free Birth. And to learn more about the Pain Free Birth e-course, free resources, private coaching, and upcoming events, find out more at painfreebirth.com. See you next week.